Hi friends, I hope you all are doing great. So, I Kunal Nagpal would like to welcome you all to this great academic platform, Nagpal Academic Academia. My dear friends, this is really an excellent platform as it provides us an opportunity to discuss really relevant economic matters which are of great concern to understand the overall functioning of various departments in the Indian economy, helping to stabilize its overall performance with regard to the volatility existing in the external global environment, as all of us are quite well versed with the volatility existing in the external environment worldwide, whose intensity is actually increasing with each passing day. So, my dear friends, such an unpredictable scenario actually calls for a much wiser approach to deal with such an uncertain situation. And the good news is, which all of us are much well aware, that India is actually faring very well, and as a result it is acting as a bright spot in the entire global economy, acting as a lighthouse for major economies operating across the globe. So my dear friends, in order to keep this momentum going on, we need to be much well versed with the overall scenario existing in our surroundings, because higher our awareness level, higher would be our intuition power, and we would be able to turn the knowledge we are possessing to deal with such crises at an individual level in a very effective manner. And being the responsible citizens, it's actually our moral duty to give our valuable suggestions to the concerned authorities, and obviously every voice is valuable and is counted in a democracy like India. All thanks to our charismatic and extraordinary leaders who are practicing the participative leadership at the best possible extent. This actually needs no explanation, as all of us are quite well aware with this particular fact. And this is also being acknowledged and appreciated at the international forums as well. So, this is really great. So my dear friends, the topic of today's discussion is actually to talk further on multilateralism. If you remember, we had a discussion on this particular topic, which is holding the success of the entire global economy. It is putting the success of the entire global economy on hold. So how to deal with it actually calls for a much well thought out approach, which considers the holistic picture with great maturity. So, in our discussion, we are actually going to go through the major insights presented by Ms. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of the World Trade Organization, who actually tries to put forward her idea and what does she want from the Indian economy. The help to build the consensus and conclude the key deals. That is, my dear friends, Ms. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of the World Trade Organization, basically said multilateralism is actually under threat, and she expects India to help build consensus to actually conclude the agreements and hence ensure the effective results. The World Trade Organization is actually revising its trade forecast based on improved global economic prospects cited by the International Monetary Fund, she said in an interview with the Economic Times. The World Trade Organization DG, that is Director General, was actually in Delhi for last week's G20 Foreign Ministers meeting. And multilateralism is definitely under attack. People seem to be losing faith in multilateralism, she said, seeking India's help, its massive help in actually strengthening the multilateral organizations, and that's what the true charismatic leadership is all about. Everybody will lose if you weaken the World Trade Organization, World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, because these institutions actually play a pivotal role in maintaining the overall effectiveness, efficiency, and stability across the entire global economy. My dear friends, she further attributed multiple crises that have hit the entire world to this pushback against multilateralism. People are shaken and losing the faith in the system they are operating in, and they are actually trying to now think only of their domestic policies and themselves. I repeat, in today's times, in such critical times, major economies across the globe are actually now trying to think only of their own domestic policies and themselves, she said, citing the example of the COVID-19 pandemic when some countries kept the vaccines for themselves. My dear friends, to this particular point, I would like to quote, actually in contradiction, that though this was a trend being followed worldwide as being presented by Ms. Wkng WTO, however, in India, we had noticed that India has not been only able to sustain itself in a very effective manner, but also our leaders, through their very far-sighted and visionary approach, and with their systematic dealing and alignment of the resources and energy in an efficient manner, they were also able to help various economies worldwide. Examples are in front of us as we have been discussing them repeatedly throughout our sessions. I would like to quote one or two of them in today's session. For instance, my dear friends, during the COVID-19 pandemic, India was not only able to sustain itself through the effective management of the entire fraternities, be it the medical fraternity, be it the hospitality industry, be it the management of the cleaning staff, and various others. It was an excellent coordination. Moreover, the vaccine supply, the manufacturing of vaccines and then their supply was also dealt with very effectively. Our Prime Minister, with the help of the concerned departments led by Mr. Adrs Wkng, ensured with their rigorous efforts and with an excellent consistency that every citizen of India gets vaccinated. As a result, nearly 99% of the Indian citizens got vaccinated, Moreover, we were also able to help our neighboring nations to supply them the vaccines. So this is really great. So as we have seen that during the COVID-19, what we were seeing around us, many countries kept the vaccines for themselves, but we acted as an angel. We Indians have proved our worth worldwide. Second example is actually portraying the excellent policy being practiced by us, that is the first neighborhood policy. Its excellent application can be seen that how effectively India helped the Sri Lankan economy to actually deal with its extremely tough time when it was undergoing the policy paralysis. India helped in a very effective manner wholeheartedly. And also, a few months back, I think just 2 months ago, our External Affairs Minister visited Sri Lanka and hence persuaded the International Monetary Fund to further help Sri Lanka to actually uplift itself in a more effective manner. So this is really great. And obviously in the recent crisis, that is the natural disaster, that is the major earthquake which struck in Syria and Turkey, India still acted as an excellent angel by providing the basic necessities at the best possible level. The medical teams and the core requirements for the basic sustenance of the humanity. This is really great, really great. So India is actually acting as a bright spot, and the basic principle is just that we are trying to help on humanitarian grounds purely based on the principles of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is one God, one world family. And moreover, our entire vision the government of India is actually having. And as a result, in order to attain that vision, various policies which are being formulated and implemented, they are in sync with not only the national interests but with the global interests. So this is really excellent, and that's why with such an excellent and noble approach, with such a strong foundation in the belief systems and the values and principles we are practicing, we are being appreciated. Our efforts are being acknowledged worldwide, and that's why we are being highlighted in such critical times. In Hindi, it is often said, सोने की असली परख एक सच्चा जुआरी ही कर सकता है. So this is really great. Now coming back, Miss Olivia further said, while the multilateral arrangements have problems, protectionism is not the way to go. I am the first one to admit that this multilateral trading system is actually not perfect. It needs reform, and the World Trade Organization needs reform. The way to deal with it is actually not to go unilateral or go to the protectionist policies, she said. That is, she is trying to put that we need to adopt the approach of modifying the existing principles which are governing the current pattern of globalization. That is, re-globalization is actually the need of the hour to address the global requirements, to address the global needs in a much better and effective manner. That is, She basically puts this was actually the time to push ahead and not retreat. I don't think the recession will be intensified, and if that's the case, and the recession is not going to be as bad, then we actually need to look at more cooperation, not more retreat, not protectionism, but a more outward looking stance. The World Trade Organization Director General said, "My dear friends, the International Monetary Fund has actually forecast 2.9% global growth for the year 2023, up from 2.7% is actually expected in October." She admitted there is a massive need, a dire need to actually reimagine the entire process of globalization. That's what I just quoted. We need to correct the things that went wrong with globalization with a new type of globalization and reimagined globalization. Yes, this is a new term, and this is actually going to be a major trend to be followed worldwide. That is reimagined globalization, which will change the entire scenario of how the international trade relationships are being defined in the global economy, if I talk in holistic terms. So she says we need to correct the things that actually went wrong with globalization with a new type of globalization and reimagined globalization, which we at the World Trade Organization are actually calling Re-Globalization, said Ms. Wkng WTO. And this could actually be achieved by using the vulnerability of the supply chains and making manufacturing less concentrated by moving it to the places that were left out. That is the poor regions within the rich countries and the poorer countries, provided they have the right business environment. So, my dear friends, fragmenting into two global trading systems will actually cost the world a 5% loss in the global GDP in the long term, and it will cost the developing countries double-digit losses, she said, citing the studies. And we cannot afford to decouple, de-globalize, or defragment. I repeat, we actually cannot afford to decouple, de-globalize, or defragment. So we need to change the entire nature of globalization so that the developing countries can benefit the most, the World Trade Organization chief said. And on India's G20 presidency, Ms. Wkng WTO said she expects the country's leadership to actually lead the results. So, my friends, we should actually see that the great level of confidence which the international pioneers governing the international organizations like WTO are having on the Indian economy. That is, they are entrusting upon us, they are entrusting upon our extraordinarily excellent policies and our overall leadership pattern to help the entire globe to come out of this extremely unpredictable and tough situation. So this is really very not noteworthy, and we really need to be proud of our overall governance pattern. She further said, what I expect from India is actually the strong leadership to make sure that we actually get the results. My expectation is that India will use the G20 presidency to actually ensure we get the good results at the World Trade Organization. This is really overwhelming that the international pioneers are entrusting upon us so deeply. Blocking the deals is not a result. Developing countries need to grow They need to develop, and the only way they can do it is to conclude the agreements. So India actually needs to help us reach the agreements and not block them, she said. She also said that India needs to ratify the fisheries subsidies agreement before the World Trade Organization's 13th Ministerial Conference scheduled for February 2024. The two countries have already ratified, that is Singapore and Switzerland, and more are basically on the way. Even the European Union and the United States of America said they are actually working on it very, very rigorously. So it will be important for the Indian economy not to be seen to be left behind. India also needs to make sure that we conclude the second phase of the fisheries subsidies agreement where the important issues are being debated. And a major breakthrough in agriculture and food security, my friends, is actually very crucial for all the developing countries, along with the World Trade Organization reform and the changes in the dispute settlement system. I hope that India can also help us work with the United States and others so we can deliver a reform by February 2024, she said. So, with the discussions which are actually going on a global intellectual property rights waiver for the COVID-19 diagnostics and therapeutics being pushed to this year, despite an MC12, that is the 12th Ministerial Conference outcome on a decision by December 2022, no country has actually disengaged, and the good news is that the discussions are still ongoing, Ms. Wkng WTO said. And specifically speaking, the Americans have said that they have sent it to their International Trade Commission, that is ITC, to study, which will not be ready till October. And this means that at least one major country cannot say anything till October. And that's part of the reason, she said, adding that she expects a solution and an outcome before the ministerial meeting in February next year, that is 2024. And as per the Director General, the World Trade Organization must be seen to be delivering for people. And that should be the core focus of the Ministerial Conference 13, which is to be held in the United Arab Emirates. Moreover, according to her, the second fisheries segment and agreement, that is an agreement on agriculture and food security and an agreement on therapeutics or diagnostics on the TRIPS, will all help the ordinary people. And if we get to reform the dispute settlement system, it basically means that every member has the full power. And if I can get 3 out of those, that will be really very, very good. So, my dear friends, after this great, insightful and in-depth analysis, I hope you now must be well stocked up that how rich our country is, for which it is being acknowledged and appreciated at a global level by the international pioneers. And as we have just seen that the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ms. Wkng WTO, is having the utmost trust on India and is very certain, with a firm conviction, that the current year of India's G20 presidency would actually be very, very fruitful, and she has full faith that India will address these important matters in the G20 summit. So this is really great. And if I basically sum up her entire viewpoint, I would like to say that she is stressing on re-globalization and not de-globalization. That is, she is very right in saying that the world actually needs re-globalization and not de-globalization, and those in disagreement would argue that the head of the multilateral trade body is hardly likely to argue against globalization. But the fact is that the open global trade has been beneficial for the growth and development, lifting millions out of poverty, allowing many developing countries to basically grow, create the jobs, and improve the lives holistically. But, my dear friends, there is actually no denying that the late 20th century version of globalization did leave much of the globe behind. Mr. Okonjo Iweala's call for re-globalization is actually a reminder of that, as well as a call for the calibrated correction. Hence, reforming the entire globalization process in order to ensure that the benefits reach those left behind and address its discontents will basically require strengthening bodies like the WTO and its mechanisms. So the call for diversifying the supply chains and decentralizing manufacturing in the aftermath of disruptions due to the COVID pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine is actually an excellent opportunity. Furthermore, it opens up the possibility to actually take the benefits of the global trade to a wider set, increasing the capacity of the countries without undermining the global interdependence. And my dear friends, India has actually benefited from globalization. At the same time, it also knows its pitfalls. And this has actually been made possible, or is being made possible, through the rigorous, consistent, and continuous SWOT analysis and pestle analysis. Hence, this mixed experience and the basic need to actually ensure that the developing countries are not left behind again gives India an important voice in this refiguring process. So, it should be at the forefront of ensuring that trade is used as an excellent tool, a very effective tool to basically tackle the global challenges such as the climate change in an excellent manner that is beneficial to all, rather than becoming an obstacle to growth, job creation, and tackling poverty. Hence, globalization bears the sweets. Just take care of the salty bits. So, my dear friends, I would like to conclude by saying that it's easy to quit. That is, as of now, to many people, deglobalization, decoupling, or defragmentation would obviously click in their minds as a very easy approach. But re-globalization, reimagining globalization would actually require the efforts, but it is definitely going to reap fruits for you in the future. And that's what the great pioneers have been trying to focus, and they are trying to attract the attention of the concerned authorities so that the necessary steps can be taken in an effective manner. So, on this note, my dear friends, I would like to conclude today's session, and I really hope you must have got an excellent idea and a clear picture of multilateralism, how to protect its integrity. So, I would like to conclude here itself, and I wish you all take excellent care of yourselves until we meet next. Thank you so much for your patient and cooperative listening, my dear friends. Namaskar. Jai Hind.